It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
A lot of people are asking the question, is FIRE even still possible? I mean, it was this dream, it was this vision, this idea, this thing that we wanted to do, but some circumstances have changed. And, there are a number of things that we're going to talk about. So can I still do FIRE? Can I still participate in that movement?
Now, before we get started, I feel like we first need to give everyone a recap.
Sure.
And look, I hate when people just assume everybody knows what acronyms stand for. Tell everybody, what is FIRE?
Yeah, FIRE is a financial movement. It stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, and it involves saving and investing much more than the average so that you can retire earlier. It's this idea of, I want to exit the workforce or have the freedom to exit the workforce as early as possible so I can get on to doing the things that I actually want to be doing.
And by the way, that also means you're willing to take some pretty extreme savings habits and other behaviors to ensure that you do have those options in the future. But Bo, it goes beyond that, because I think there's a lot of times we take movements and we just group them all together. FIRE is kind of unique because it's got a bunch of different elements and different structures.
Yep, there's obviously the financial independence part, there's the retire early part, and as we're going to talk about later in the show, there's even some different strains. There are some different ways that FIRE might actually apply to you. So I think, if that's sort of the backdrop of what it is and what the movement is, we should talk a little bit, Brian, about how it's changed. What are some things that are sort of new in recent history that have impacted or affected the overall FIRE movement?
So the first thing I'd like to talk about is kind of this whole concept of FIRE, because financial independence has been something that's been around for a long time.
Yep.
I mean, it's been rebranded as this with the whole retire early part, but you've heard about, and just I'll use a pretty dirty acronym that you hear people, is like the FU money and other things like that. No, but seriously, that is what financial independence. A lot of people say you do life on your terms. You don't have to listen to anybody. How is that different from what FIRE is?
Yeah, we've always advocated that. We've always said that the process of trading your time for money until you can then trade your money for time is the definition of building financial independence. That's what our clients who even work with us on the wealth management side, that's what they do. That is what they are working towards. But it seems like right now, if you're part of this movement, part of this retiring early idea, this financial independence as soon as possible idea, there have been a lot of distractions thrown at you recently.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the formula for success with financial assets is, use your earnings heavily towards saving and investing so it can grow and your money can become more powerful than you can with your back, your hands, and your back. However, there's a lot of this. I mean, think about cryptos, NFTs, SPACs. I mean, all these things. How is this played into FIRE?
Yeah, there have been a lot of popular voices out there in the community starting to give people sort of this idea of how can you get there quickly? So, here's this couple retired at 29 on an $88,000 salary. Millennials look to crypto to retire early. Want to retire early? Include Bitcoin in your investment portfolio. So a lot of people are talking about these new age, new ways to invest that might ultimately lead you to being able to have financial independence early. But we think, and it's been proven here a little bit lately, that if you're doing this, perhaps you're playing with FIRE. Get it? Pun intended. You see what I did there?
I see it. So the thing, Bitcoin went all the way up to like 69,000. It's right around $20,000 right now. Do you have any specific examples of people who've fallen into the trap?
Yeah, so there's a popular blogger who started blogging about this in 2015. He was going to start using crypto to be part of his FIRE journey, and specifically, he was using Bitcoin. And normally, we wouldn't have problems with that being a portion or a part of your portfolio, but this is what happened with him. He started putting his money in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin ran up and ran up and ran up to where at the peak, it was over a third of his entire portfolio, his entire investment portfolio. And the appreciation of Bitcoin is the thing that allowed him to get to FIRE early, but he never de-risked. He never actually backed off. He never actually took some of his chips off the table. Now, fortunately, he had some other assets, and it was only a third, not an entirety of his portfolio, but he has been very forthcoming that the emotional roller coaster that he rode from being super, super flush, and then now with what happened with Bitcoin, being absolutely hammered, it has been a trying time, especially when you're trying to live in the independence mode. Being very dependent on the prices of your assets on a roller coaster is not where you want to be.
Well, I want to tell everybody who's part of this financial independence movement that when you especially are trying to leave the workforce so early, every year has to have a purpose. And I don't want anybody getting distracted by this fool's gold or cutting the corner off of an edge, because I've seen so many people. Here's what I think is interesting. And I've watched people who have really good content right off the get-go on Twitter and so forth. And then they find out some of the best referral programs or affiliate link programs are tied to some of these get rich or corner cutting schemes.
Yep.
And you see their entire outlook change and their messaging and everything. I just don't want anybody to fall prey to where you lose focus on let's get the fundamentals right, because every year has to have a purpose if you're going to be part of this FIRE movement. So don't let somebody side rail you with something that seems too good to be true.